we bring you a special Halloween episode of the IOHL East Coast Radio Show. Tampa Bay crawls their way out of the basement while Boston finds its way in it. And Carney, now known as the Wizard of Oz, brings you his new segment. All this and more on this episode of the IOHL East Coast Radio Show.
I'm out.
Well, I was talking about me.
He wants me to be gentle. That's awesome. And horrible at the same time, Hunter. Take that, Mike. Like, we do this for the people.
Welcome to the special Halloween episode of the IOHL East Coast Radio Show. I am your host, Sir Mike Knight. With me, as always, Miss Ovechkin and Mr. Name Change over there, the formerly known as Carnivore, is now the Wizard of Osgood. So, as you can tell, we have no special guests this week. Unfortunately, we were unable to get anybody with such short notice who could come in costume. I mean, bottom line.
Pretty much.
So, we're going to start off this show with the leaders of the East, and there are a couple changes, but some things remain the same, and the first one is the New York Rangers are still on the top of the East. Marge, you want to give us some stats from the New York Rangers?
Yeah, you got Young Prodigy and Forza leading the Rangers. Young Prodigy had 22 points, 12 goals, 10 assists. He was a 3.67 points per game player, and then Forza was right behind him with 19 points, 5 goals and 14 assists. So, you know, Forza is probably the setup person in that line, and you know, they're both putting up huge numbers. And then Crosby, who they just got from Toronto, 5 games played and 4 goals and 14 assists. And then their goalies, they have Scruffy with a perfect 3-0 week for him. And then their main goalie, Raptor, with the 2.66 goals against average and 5 wins and 2 losses. So New York's still chugging along, putting up some good numbers there.
All right. Tough to take a loss. Tough to not take a loss when you're playing 7 games a week, right?
Yeah.
You know, but if it's working for them, it's working for them. So, all right. Team number 2. No surprise here. Toronto is team number 2. Carney, you want to give us some players to look out for there?
Toronto, they spread it out. They've only got 2 guys that played 5 games. For the most part, everybody else played 4. One guy with 3 games as far as playing out of net. Ryan, 7. 5 games played, averaging 3.4 points per game, totaling of 17 points with 10 goals and 7 assists for the week. That's pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
That's 3.4 points per game is pretty astronomical. Pens, 87-18. Recently traded from Boston. 5 games played, had 9 goals, 6 assists, and an average of 3 points per game. King B Killa, another trade that they made, 3.5 points per game with 4 games played. Mike, the owner, only 1.5 points, so it's a good thing he's making trades. And their number 1 overall pick, Tank, 4 games played, averaging 4 points per game. The big number here, the big standout for Tank, is he's not doing the scoring, he's doing the dishing. He has 13 assists to 3 goals for a total of 16 points.
There you go.
Nice.
There you go.
And as far as their goaltending goes, everybody knows Toronto's goaltending. They rely on their high-power offense. They've been shaky over the last few weeks in their goaltending, but they figured it out. They had goalie cancer come through with 3 games played and a .826 with a 1.33 goals against average. Obviously, he won those 3 games. And then their Golden Aces, 5 games played, a 3.4 goals against average and a .742. So, I mean, you average those out, and it looks like they're weak. I mean, they do rely on those guys that are scoring points. as far as between the pipes, because every week they got one goalie that's struggling.
Yeah, I mean, you don't really need goaltending if your time on attack is way up there, right? Now, I mean, these two teams, we knew these two teams were going to be tough after the draft. Weren't sure if Forza was going to be able to recover after the whole management debacle, but he had a great draft, and everybody knew it. And this doesn't surprise me. Does it surprise you guys that these two are in the top?
No, they were expected to be in the top, and they are in the top, and they're boasting some big numbers. And like like you just went over, a lot of their games are spread out too. I know New York is more, they play a lot of their big guys the majority of the time, but Toronto's spreading it around, and they're successful.
I will say this, however, Pens did score all those points for Boston because he recently got traded over the weekend, but they still got a tough team, and with Pens, it's going to make them even better. And we'll get into trades later on in the show. Now, number 3 team is Montreal.
Yeah, Montreal. They've got Hertz and Pulowski are both tied with 30 points for the week. Hertz has 5 games played and Pulowski has 6. They both have 11 goals and 19 assists. So I don't know if they play on the same line. I'm not too sure about all that, but they're putting up some big numbers. 6 points per game for Hertz and 5 points per game for Pulowski. And their defense is pretty solid too. Their defense is chipping in. I think 2 of their defenders have 10 points or more, so it's pretty significant. And then their goalies, they have Claphouse. He went 3-2 for the week. Not too significant. From those points alone, you can see that Montreal's a pretty offensively driven team.
Right. All right. Now, these guys are actually tied with Toronto, but because Toronto has more regulation wins, they take the tiebreaker. The 44 points for New York, it's pretty significant. It's 9 points above both Toronto and Montreal, who are at 35. And then coming in fourth, who seem to have recovered, is Detroit at 31 points. Carney, you want to give us Detroit real quick?
I'll give you Detroit. I don't know how they're doing it, other than they have a really strong first line. Because their second line, they're really struggling. I mean, their goaltending, their save percentage for their number 1 goalie, who had 5 wins on the week, is a .612 save percentage with a 3.71 goals against average. So that top line is really producing in order to keep him in the W. And then their backup goalie, Adida, a .65. So they're struggling between the pipes, really bad. They definitely need to find either a way to get their defense to rally around them, or a goalie who I've never met before, who can play through anything. The other thing on the flip side, we have Detroit and their leaders, Big Bear, center, dropping 6 games with a 2.5 goals against average. And they don't have anybody over 3 points per game on average. They just had their top line playing the most games. 6 games throughout the average for their top line. Mm-hmm. Everybody else after that, 5 and 4. But they definitely have their top line playing most of the time. And it's really speaking volumes in their plus-minus that they have most of their guys. In fact, there's only one guy through this week's period that is positive on the plus-minus side. And that's speaking as to why they're struggling and why they really have to produce with their top line in order to keep it going. I think DGI has some work to do there, and he's still got to move some players around or find a way to get the lines to work. But they're still a tough team to beat, and I'm always scared to play them, even when they're struggling.
Yeah, I mean, even and we might as well take this opportunity to announce DGI has come onto staff. He is not a full commissioner. He's down there with Drunken Stab. They're both management, while DGI is an owner. So God damn it. What is the name of that?
League official.
There we go. League official. I always forget because we haven't had one. So yeah, league official, and he's doing some really good work. Him and Drunken Stab doing some really good work for us, and helping run their team at the same time. And I commend them for that. So while Carney's gone, we might as well bring up the last team that is above 500 in the East, and that is the Columbus Blue Jackets at 28 points, only 3 points behind Detroit. They also are missing a game this week, and that's something we're trying to sort out at the moment. So, Marge, you want to give us Columbus?
Yeah, Columbus went through a little bit of a management change last week. And so, it seems like Sweet Nine Lou has taken over and he's, getting Columbus, keeping them on the right track. Because as we spoke on the last radio show, when Columbus shows up, they're almost unbeatable. They're a pretty solid team. They've got Don't Even Matter. He put up 29 points last week. And then it just evens out after that. You've got Sweet Nine Lou with 17 points, Frack Attack with 15, or Ormond Throppers with 15. So, they're spreading it around and they're getting it done. And then their goalie Dolphine had 6 games played, 5 wins, 1 loss with the goals against of 3.17. So and a shutout. So and looking at their plus minus, it looks like they're scoring a lot more than they're giving up. So yeah, Columbus is it seems as if they're getting things back on track, and look for them to compete with Detroit for that spot right above them.
Okay. All right. Yeah. No. Yeah. Columbus is a good team when they show up, and I wish them luck with their management change. So now we're gonna bring in Tampa Bay. Tampa Bay Lightning sitting there at the number 6 spot, definitely proving that they're not out. 25 points. Crawl out of the basement, and it's been a really good week for them. And Carney, you want to tell us who is a good week for Tampa Bay?
Well, it really stemmed from moving some people around, bringing up a couple guys from TC, sending a couple guys away and down to TC or waivers. They were picked up by other teams. Just getting some pieces moved around, players playing with different players, and everybody just having a mentality of, we were losing games, onesies, twosies. Every once in a while we'd get, a game that we fell apart, but nobody panicked. And like I said last week, we're finding ways to lose games rather than win them. And this week we flipped that around. We found ways to win games instead of lose them. Leaders for the team, we had not astronomical numbers. I mean, G-Dollar averaging 3.2 points per game. Blink, one of our TC players that we brought up to a full-time roster player, 3 points per game. Reggie Hauser, 2.75. Brick City, 0.67 points per game. So in our top 5, we have 2 TC players that we brought up, and I think that's what made the difference. We also made a big acquisition this week in picking up CJC Cobra as an emergency trade. We're having problems on the backside between the pipes, myself included, and bringing in another goaltender who's a number 1 goaltender, or where we will essentially be splitting time. It takes a lot of pressure off both goalies' shoulders. We can show up to the game not worrying about it if we're going to win or lose, because I don't have 7 games a week because I have another goalie that can. Mm-hmm. So that's it really helps the mentality. I did play 7 games this week, and I posted, trying not to pat my own back, doing stats. I posted an 80 save percentage with 4 wins and 3 losses. I think 2 of those were in overtime. 2 overtime losses. So with a 2.71 goals against average with 95 shots against. And Cobras came over for us. He played 1 game in net for us, so 2 of them were for his other team. And when he played for us, he played great. Now, his numbers don't reflect it on the week. He had a 4.47 save percentage for the week. I don't see how that's possible, but I mean,
because of the play in Boston, man.
that's pretty rough. But I can see why he requested a trade. But you know, between the pipes is not where it's. I always give credit to the guys in front of you, and my guys in front of me this week, they played very well. They kept us in it. They made it to where I didn't have to do too much work back there, and it was easy to get the wins that we got, and it was hard to lose the games that we lost in overtime because of how well the guys played. And I have to take credit for at least 2 of those games myself, and not those guys in front of me. So that's the difference. Start from the bottom. Now we're here, and watch out because we're coming for you. We figured it out.
All right. And the next team is Boston, sitting 2 points behind Tampa at 23. They had a tough week. They had a really tough week, right, Marge?
Yeah, I mean, just looking at the numbers here, their highest point scorer is Barrett 50 Cal with 9 points, and he was a -8. And then, you know, you look down the list and it's 8 points, 7 points, 6 points, 5 points, 4 points, and then you've got your 2s and your 1s. But you've got Barrett 50 Cal with 9 points for the week and 20 shots. The next highest shots is 8. So you guys need to put some more shots on net. I know you're a defensive team, but, you know, just looking at the plus minuses, it's pretty easy to tell that you're having some trouble in the point scoring, in the goal scoring department there. And then you had 4. What's that?
We did have a huge management blow up again in Boston, where Tucker went through some family issues and had to retire. And you know, we had that emergency trade with Tampa, priority trade, and you know, the chemistry is not there. I mean, that's the bottom line. I've been moved back to D because that's where we're struggling. Yeah, we were a defensive team, you know, and we relied heavily on our goaltending, and we had McKenzie, who had to go on IR, and we had Cobras, who, you know, without the defense in front of them, didn't put up very good numbers. So we were relying heavily on our goaltending, and now that we don't have the goaltending, we can't, and we're struggling because of it. So, I mean, we'll get the chemistry. It'll come. Might take Boston a little bit to get up there, and who knows if it's going to be too late. But yeah, I'm having fun, so I'm going to stick with them.
That's good. But yeah, I mean, yeah, you just need some more top to bottom, you know, chipping in from everybody from top to bottom. So
we just got to figure it out. You know, a lot of moving parts. We got a new owner over there in King Oak, really good player, really cool guy. So hopefully we'll figure it out. All right. And on to more basement dwellers. We got Philadelphia, sitting at 15 points. Also, they asked for stat, so they got 2 games that aren't put in. Were those losses?
I'm not sure. I think one was a win, but I'm not sure. It has to be updated. I think so.
Okay. So Carney, you want to give us Philly?
You know, damn you, Philly. Damn you. Basement dweller team seem to have the same problems we were having. You can't find ways to win games, but you make up ways to lose games. Except for when we play against each other. I don't think my team has beat Philly. And I think I've given up a majority of my goals to Philly. I don't know what it is about you guys I don't know. But, I mean, I feel sorry for you guys. You got 2 goalies with a goals against average that's over 4. One of them is over 5. I mean, if you're averaging 5 goals against, I mean, you put those 2 together, you're averaging 4.5 goals against per game. That's a deep hole to dig yourself out of. As far as on the skater side, I mean, they're pretty full over there. They had that management change few weeks back, and I don't know if they've fully recovered from that hangover yet. They get guys they're trying to move around and make trades, and they're always active on the trades and waiver rosters. They just seem, I don't know what it is. They don't seem to be able to get it to click. And they got guys that put up astronomical numbers. Galchenyuk,
Galchenyuk.
one game played, had 4 goals and 2 assists, 6 points for one game. 4 goals on 10 shots, nonetheless. Brosaurus Rex, 2 games played, had 3 goals and 3 assists. I mean, the numbers are there on their top line. Then you get to their second line. 1 goal. 1 point, 0.5, 0.5, 0.5, 0 points per game. I mean, you're getting in those dismal numbers, and that's what's killing them. They got to find something. They got to find a happy medium between their first line and their second line. Otherwise, they're not going to make it to the playoffs. They might even be out before halfway through the season if they don't do something.
Right. And another team that is also going through the same management changes as the other 3 bottom teams, Buffalo. Buffalo's sitting there in the basement at 15 points. March.
Yeah, I know that Buffalo forfeited some games. I know Wellesley had some problems getting some players to show up. I think he's made some trades to try to solve that problem, try to get some more active guys. But you've got Sakic, who had 4 games played and 10 points, and then it just drops off. XYNF, 2 games played, 4 points. Wagner, 4 games played, 3 points. I mean, they're not putting up numbers. They're not putting in stats because they're all pretty much even players on plus minus, which I don't believe that those are accurate. And then their goalies, they've played 4 different goalies this week, and all their goalies lost. Jay Dizzy is the only goalie with the win, so they're struggling. And I know Wellesley's just trying to figure out who really wants to show up and play for him, so he can try to get some wins. So.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's a struggle for every owner, especially when you're in the bottom. So let's, while we're talking about Wellesley trying to make some trades, let's cut into the trades. We'll take a quick break, Marge, so you can bring it. And now we are going to talk about some trades. Carney, you want to bring us the first trade there, bud?
One of the biggest priority trades this week that I saw was the Detroit and St. Louis trade. Detroit called up and traded one of their TC players, NVMe X99 goaltender, to St. Louis for Adi Da, a regular player. And Adi Da was the overall first draft pick of the international tournament. So I see Detroit heavily winning on that trade. It almost seems not fair to me. That one just surprised me, as far as maybe St. Louis didn't know who they had, or maybe he just doesn't have his card. That's a very one-sided trade in my eyes.
All right. Marge, you got a trade that you want to talk about?
Well, I know San Jose and Boston did some trades. San Jose was trying to help Boston out with their some issues that they were having with some players. Let me pull it up real quick. Sorry. San Jose sent you guys a sneaky X84 for Bleed Blue for Life. I know that Bleed Blue for Life, he's played with Boyd Hurdle, whatever his name is now. So that was a big chemistry thing for him. So it's a underrated, it's not a huge trade, but it was something that both teams needed something, and I think they both are pretty even in this trade.
Right. Carney, you got another trade you want to talk about?
Big blockbuster movement in between Tampa Bay and Boston. Boston again. Tampa Bay sends their third-round pick and 2 heavily sought-after TC players for Boston's third-round goaltender, CJC Cobras, Barrett Fiddical moving from Tampa over to Boston, and a TC player named Bushlicker. I've never heard of that individual, so I'm not sure how he plays. Instantly making Tampa Bay a better team. If you look at the head, that trade right there was probably one of the catalysts, a big movement that Geist, the owner of Tampa Bay, made to thrust Tampa into the right direction. And it was unfortunate for Boston because the trade that they kind of had to make. They had to move the player because he requested a trade.
All right, so another big one that took some while to get finalized because some things, and then there was tears that fought back and forth. But Lewis, Columbus, Crass, X88 or X8, Kanji, R, and Kazoo of Columbus, St. Louis for be Chislett, Green Arrow, and Gimpy. Now, anybody are good together. Lots of
And one more, Carney?
I'll give you one more. Here's a trade that chaps my ass. It's another Boston trade with Toronto, a team that's already stacked to begin with and a very controversial team. Pens, 87-18, a left winger worth $4 million IOHL bucks, is moved to Toronto, as well as Pitt Pens, a TC player, for Laffy Taffy and Wall 31, and also Bombs Hurt. All three could be considered TC players, if you will. I don't see the fairness in that trade at all. It's ridiculous to me how these teams just keep stacking one team over another. I don't get it, but to each his own. If it makes your team better, good for you. Just understand that if you want to make it to the cup, you got to get through that. You keep trading good players too.
All right. Well, that's going to do it for trades. So, Carney, what do you got for us next?
Well, I'm no longer known as Carney in the Xbox gaming industry world. I am now the Wizard of Osgood, paying homage to my favorite goaltender from my favorite team from my era that I remember watching the Red Wings. A lot of guys saying, well, Osgood, in fact, my owner of my team said Osgood was the most carried goaltender of all time. To that I say, bullshit. The guy has 3 Stanley Cups spanning over 2 decades. That's, or at least 10 years apart. But that's impressive to me. And, growing up, he was my goaltending idol. So, Osgood, you the man. And one of his nicknames is the Wizard. So, the Wizard of Osgood is my new nickname. Which leads me into my segment of where I'm going to whiz all over you. So, who would like to be whizzed on first, Marge or Mike?
Pick one.
Mike looks pretty eager.
Pick one. He does look pretty eager to be whizzed on, doesn't he? Well, I don't have much for you, Mike, other than the fact that I have never seen your face look so hairless. Fine. I'm gonna whiz on Toronto for making all these trades that just don't seem right in most people's eyes, but are legit, which is bullshit. I don't know how they do it. Fucking goddamn golden tongue. whiz on New York for winning all those damn games all the time and making it hard for us to catch up to them. A whiz on Boston, trading away their good players and getting, well, sorry, Boston. Whiz on Philly, whiz all over Philly for beating me every single time. See who else gonna whiz on? Whiz on the chat box for everybody. Nobody ever having anything that's actually intellectual or worth a damn to read. See who else can I whiz on? Just gonna whiz on you.
All right. Well,
A little different this time.
yeah. Hopefully next time we'll be able to get an owner on, and we'll do the section formerly known as Carney's Roast. Now, I'm going to end this show with a question I always ask. Carney, can't pick Tampa. Give me one team that is going to make a playoff run. Ready, go.
Detroit.
He's going with Detroit. Marge, same question.
New York. It just, last week everybody was ready to see them fall and not be able to carry that 10-0 momentum, and they still put up wins, so I don't see New York slowing down anytime soon. They're just going to keep chugging along, and, yeah, they're going to make a run.
And I'm banking on DGI figuring it out and continuing to win games. I'm going with Detroit as well. So that'll do it for this episode of the IOHL East Coast Radio Show. From all of us here, keep it classy, IOHL.
Get whizzed on.
That too.
Jump.
I had it and I lost it. There goes my beard. While Boston, okay, I gotta stop.
I was gonna
This beard. Dance break? Look, my beard's fan. All right. We bring you a special Halloween episode. I can't do it. Fucking beard, dude. Fuck it.
Calm, cool, collected is how I roll. Why do we still have Atlantic and Metropolitan? It's so fucking
I
frustrating.
don't know, dude. It's fucking ridiculous, though.
You can't be a hockey player.